May all beings be happy. May all beings be healthy. May all beings be free from harm. May all beings love life. May all beings awaken. Welcome to another Cuke Audio Podcast. I'm DC, Poobah of Cuke Audio and Cuke Archives, doing our bit to help preserve the legacy of Shunryu Suzuki and those whose paths cross his, and anything else that comes to mind. I pray that you and yours are safe and comfortable, free from economic hardship, and able to get out and do whatever it is you want within the limitations of the universal precept of do as little harm as possible. So let's call this one Back from Germany. Yeah, we just got back. But today's Monday. We got back Friday evening, and really good to be back in Bali. We had a wonderful time at Johanneshof, which is what I call it. You know, that's the one building over there in Dharma Sangha's retreat in the Black Forest. It used to be Johanneshof, but then they bought the one next door, the Hof House, really big house, owned by a well-known carpenter who built bridges and restored bridges. There was a very famous bridge near there between Bad Säckingen and Stein in Switzerland. It's a wooden-covered bridge that goes over the Rhine, and he fixed it up years and years ago. He had a giant shop downstairs, like, really big, very high ceiling, and really a very large home. And he moved on, and I guess he retired and went, I don't know what happened, but he sold the building to Dharma Sangha. That was a big deal. It was like Richard Baker said, the Hof House is available, we have to buy it. And everybody said, we can't afford it. You know, it's we can't staff we can hardly staff what we've got. We can hardly support what we've got. How on earth can we take that on? He said, you got to take it on. We've got to take it on. We don't have a sufficient size, a sustainable size to, for this group to be sustainable. It needs that to continue into the future. That's the only place I've been in the West since we moved to Bali 12 years ago. I've been there 3 times. And I was in a car with him, and he was telling me how they've got to do that, this and that. And I'd talk to, the older members of the Sangha about it. They don't all live there. It's more, there is a core residential group, but people who come there for retreats or who know him from all the workshops and retreats he's done around Germany. It's their home temple, sort of. So he was telling me how they had to do it. Back in 2016, I said, yeah, this is just like when we got Green Gulf at Zen Center. Now, I wasn't on the board then. That was 1972. That was right after Suzuki Roshi died. I mean, Suzuki Roshi dies, and people are thinking, what is Zen Center going to be like with Richard Baker as abbot? And Kansei had warned, Edward Kansei, the scholar, had warned Suzuki. Suzuki had talked to him about, who should be my successor in this and that. He was asking for advice from various. I think he was showing them respect. He already knew who was going to be it. But Kansei said, don't make Richard Baker. I've seen his astrology chart, and he'll squander all the resources of the organization. He'd been abbot like maybe a month when he said, Green Gulch Farm is available to us for $300,000. That's like a gift. for the first valley north of San Francisco, where Highway 1 goes down to the ocean. He said, we've got to have Green Gulch Farms, and Center doesn't have, again, a sustainable size. It's got to offer more. And with the city and Tassajara, it needs the farm, it needs the place, and the kind of practice place outside. And my dear departed friend, Nils Holm, was on the board. And he told me, David, every single person in the board said, no, we can't do it. And he talked them all out of it. And so anyway, we got Green Gulch. It was amazing, great. And actually, in the third volume of Tassajara Stories, I get into, how we got it. But it's on Cuke.com. It's very interesting, all the things that led up to us getting it, because, George Wheelwright had to know about us to pass it on to us. Anyway, so same thing in Germany. Everybody said, no, we can't afford it, and this and that, and he talked them all out of it. And guess what? Like that Field of Dreams movie, build it and they will come. That happened. And, it's a struggling group. A lot of groups are, it's in debt and trying to get by, but they are getting by. And, in the 3 weeks we were there, the staff would sometimes be down to, say, 10 people, but there would be, say, 6 people from the outside coming in to work. They have different type layers. They have students, I think they call them free, who come in and work during the day, and they get benefits, like they get food. And I don't know entirely what. They don't get paid, but they get a lot of benefits from the group, and they like it, and they practice with it. Then there are events that happen, and all of a sudden there would be 40 people there. Katrinka and I went to the overview meeting every Monday. It's every Wednesday. We went to the first, actually we arrived on Thursday, and it's on Wednesday. So we went to that one and said hello to everybody, and, we were told what we're there for. I knew a lot of them, or, they knew who we were. Something pretty interesting here is, they have their meetings in German. They're all German or Austrian or something. Sometimes there's people from, other countries. But at this time, I think they were all Germans at the meeting, about 20. And, they'd have those meetings in German. But if there's one person there who doesn't speak German, they'll have it in English. And so all the meetings we went to were in English. And, wow, think about that. 20 people there speak German, speak good English. Yeah, wow, look at that level of education. But then they detail what's going to happen, like tomorrow 15 people arrive who are doing a workshop like this. And then later in the day, another 20 arrive who are here for the Hermit program. The week we left, there were 2 groups there doing work practice. And, like at Tassajara, when we had, it's comparable to the interim, where there's one Zazen in the morning, one Zazen in the evening, and a lot of work. Except at Johanneshof, there was same Zazen, 2 Zazens, a full service in the morning, and an hour Zazen split with a 5-minute interval, where you can stand up, sit, keep sitting, pull your legs up, whatever, in the interval. In the evening, it hosts a lot coming and going, and then they have events. And, then a year ago, I was there when Richard Baker stepped down as abbot and Nicole Baden stepped up. There were 300 people there, and they were there for 3 days. I mean, they weren't all staying there, but boy, I tell you, the place was packed, and every guest house, in the area was too. And they had a shuttle, picking people up. And it's in the Black Forest. It's in a little, very small village, beautiful for walking. I was there with Katrinka, and, Katrinka loves to walk. She walks a lot. I walk as much as I can, but I can't keep up with her. And then my sister Susan and niece Camille arrived for our last week there. Camille was just gaga over the horses and cows that would, come up to the fence when they were walking around. And the fences there are mainly just little, hardly can see them, electric fences. Just give them a little poke. They don't go beyond it. They have an interesting schedule, too, depending on what's happening with people coming and going. Monday is what they call a cosmic day. It's not like a 4 and 9 day. At Tassajara, we have 4 and 9 days. Every day with a 4 or a 9 in it is, a day off, a day to do your laundry and this and that. There's one zazen in the morning, one in the evening, and a dinner in the dining room. So it's a special day, and you have all day free pretty much. Their cosmic day, everything is free. There's no food served. There's no meals. But their kitchen is very open, and you can go get anything you want. There's always plenty there. And I think Tuesday was a more reduced scheduled day. I've been there when there was, there's no zazen on a cosmic day. I've been there when there's no zazen on the next day in the morning, just the one in the evening, stuff like that. Anyway, it's got a pretty relaxed schedule. Really nice, compatible people there. I really think the people that show up to practice there, they just seem overall less neurotic than the sort of people I'm used to coming to Zen Center. But listen, I'm from Zen Center long ago. People are much more, they're more predictable and they're not as wild and crazy. But we weren't all wild and crazy. There were just all types of people. There were there were quiet, serious people who wanted to study Zen. And then there was the rest of us. Just like a zoo. I try to deal with this in Tassajara Stories, just in case you don't know. Tassajara Stories, a sort of memoir oral history of the first Zen Buddhist monastery in the West, the first year, 1967, just was published by Monkfish on September 23rd. You were encouraged to buy it, read it, find out. This is like taking that part out of Cricket Cucumber would get Tassajara, taking it and zooming in on it. More than that, you get to know a lot of people, how they got there, and it's like it says, it's a memoir too. So how did I get there, and what was happening all around us, all sorts of stuff, mainly Tassajara. So there we were at Johannesburg, my sister, niece, Katrinka, and I. So the schedule we had was they'd be there 2 days, and then we go visit Vanja Palmers in Switzerland at Mount Rigi. Vanja was a Zen Center student ordained by Richard Baker and then became a student of Kobun Chino's and given transmission by Kobun Chino. And he founded Felsentor, their retreat center. I call it retreat center. It's, a temple. Paul Disco built a fantastic, Paul Disco's company, I think mainly Michael Kuhn, but others, joinery structures, built a fantastic Japanese zendo there. Very traditional, quite an accomplishment up there in the Alps, because Felsentor means, I think it means stone gate. And, you take the cog train up there, up Mount Rigi. This is in the Alps. And Vanja bought an old hotel there. Actually, it's one that Queen Victoria used to stay in. Her main place was up much higher on Mount Rigi. He bought it and they remodeled it, and there's students there, and they have that wonderful zendo, and they have gardens. He bought other pieces near there. He has a home below it that he can walk up to Felsentor. Of course, he's getting on in age too, but he still can do that. The greenhouses and people practicing there in different places. Listen, I want to do a podcast with him to talk about the extent of everything he's done. I did one about, 5 years ago with him, and it's really good. It's really interesting. He's a really interesting, admirable person, the work he's done with animal rights. And, there's a Netflix movie featuring him that's about psychedelics in practice called, I'll put that in here. I can't remember right now. Descending the Mountain, and it's 2021. And it's a very interesting movie, and you really get to see Vanja, very level-headed, very nice guy. You'll understand some of what they're doing there, but it's mainly that focus on an experiment with psilocybin in a session where half the people took it and half didn't. So that was interesting. But anyway, we drove up there. Beata, who's the Tenzo at Johanneshof, and chairman of the board of Dharma Sangha Germany. Actually, at first she said she can't do it. She's got too much responsibility. And I said, Beata, you're chairman of the board. Vanja is the founder of some very important practice centers 2 hours away there in Austria, and it's your responsibility. So she said, okay, because he really wanted to go. Drove us there, a couple hours to from Johanneshof in the Black Forest. It's very south of Germany, right near Switzerland, down over to Luzerne, and then to Mount Rigi, which is outside of Luzerne by Lake Luzerne. And we had a lovely lunch with Vanja. He made it with baked root vegetables from their garden and some bread he'd made. I mean, this guy is incredible. There was more, I can't remember. Anyway, very nice, wonderful being with him. My sister and Camille went up and saw Felsentor. It was very foggy. Unfortunately, could only see about a foot in front of, really, literally a couple of yards in front of them, or something, 10 feet in front of them. The Katrinka and I stayed back with Vanja for a couple of hours. It took them to look around. I've been there a few times, and Katrinka's been there. The ride up on the cog train and back are 40 francs. That's like $45. And, we let them go. Anyway, wonderful time with Vanja. But at the very end of lunch, she had to zoom back to Johanneshof because she's Tenzo, and, they had all these people there on these this work practice thing. So Vanja drove us to a town, a Swiss town, the name of which I don't remember, to a bed and breakfast, and we were there 2 nights and spent. The women spent a day in Luzerne, which was near it, just a short bus ride, and I stayed back at the bed and breakfast. And then the next day we took the train to Basel, which is very interesting. The Tingly Fountain, hey, Google Tingly Fountain. We saw that and walked around Basel, took the train from Basel to Bad Säckingen. Basel's on the Rhine, Bad Säckigen's on the Rhine. It's a 30-minute train ride. And Andrea, wonderful Andrea, the director of ZBZS, since they got Hofhaus, Zen Buddhistisches Zen Buddhistisches Zentrum Schwarzwald. In other words, a Zen center in the Black Forest. Isn't Johanneshof better as a name? I mean, that's what I call a lot of people do. Actually, they say Joho. Anyway, Andrea picked us up, and we're all ready to go back. Now, I'd been having some stomach problems, and I'd been down, my energy had been down since before I left Bali. That happens to me now and then here, every few years or something. I'll just be really low energy for a month or a week or 3 days or something, But I had another problem with my stomach was bothering me. More than that, I don't want to get into it. So I said to Andrea, I can't go back to Johannesburg. You have to take me to a hospital. So I spent the evening in the hospital, and the next day, Katrinka and Gisela came and picked me up in the afternoon, and what I had was constipation that was beyond, I just needed help. It's just been too long, I don't know. It might have to do with, I've got a hiatal hernia with that or something. Anyway, the constipation had made my stomach problems so bad, I couldn't go back. So that greatly relieved everything and set me back on a normal course. I want to say one thing about the hospital there. What's your image of a German hospital like? Everything perfect and in order and clean and this and that? I think that's true if you're in Freiburg, but this was a country hospital on the edge of the Black Forest. And I was shocked at some of the conditions, and the doctors and the nurses were all good. Oh, incidentally, one of the orderlies was a nice young woman from Bali, and she was so excited to meet me. We talked a little in Indonesian. Anyway, her English was so good, it was ridiculous, but that was neat. But people were sleeping in their clothes. They didn't give them special clothes. There was a guy next to me in the first bed, the first thing I was in, who had his shoes on in bed. I was just shocked. And finally, they dealt with my problem, and finally at about midnight, they took me upstairs. I said, I'm going to take my clothes off. Oh, how interesting, or something, I left my shorts, my underwear, and my T-shirt on, but I slept there. And there were a number of things like that were unusual. Another thing, listen, the woman doctor I saw the night before, she was really good. She felt around in my stomach and talked to me and did an ultrasound. She was really good, and they did an x-ray. They did some just normal procedures you do, and they weren't good enough. And I told them, that's not good enough. The doctor the next day, he said, I'll give you something that'll take care of it. And he did. But the doctors, the nurses, the orderlies, they were all good. It was just obviously a hospital, doesn't have a lot of money. And here's another thing. When I came home, right, they picked me up, and Katrinka and Gisela, and oh, wow, Gisela went back to Johannesburg, and I'm talking to Susan and Camille in their room, and it's cold there, I had a long sleeve shirt on, but we were inside the room. I pulled the shirt back, and when you go into a hospital, many times if, you're staying there, they'll put a syringe in your arm with a hookup to a drip, or, nurse will come in and they'll disconnect that and put something else in it. So and if they take it out, there's a little cap they put on it. Well, when I rolled my sleeves up, that syringe was still in my arm. I had 4 things, They'd done the other arm too, but that was just a Band-Aid. And then there were these, like, plastic things on my wrist. So I had 4 things on me. None of them were taken care of. I mean, those plastic things they should have cut off before I left. They identify your name, who you are. But the syringe was still there. I think Camille was freaking out because I said, I'll just put it. But the hard part was getting all the tape off around it. And It was easy pulling. I didn't hurt or anything. But that was pretty far out, huh? So anyway, we stayed there 2 more days. Flew out. I was still having stomach bothering me. So I just fasted. The day before we flew out, I stopped eating after noon. And I didn't eat until the evening when we got back. It was about 2 days. And that made me feel so much better. I was doing things. I was working. I was going to sadhana and everything. But, I just had this discomfort. But I felt so much better coming back. I went, oh, my God. And then I wondered, do I feel better because it's going away or because I fasted? So I had already made a doctor's appointment for the next day with a GI doctor. They just say digestive here, gastrointestinal, something like that. And I picked him with ChatGPT because the one at the local hospital I normally use did my hernia operation. I didn't want to use him. He's good at that, but he's just a surgeon. He really won't talk about anything else. And this was a little too complicated for that. So I met that doctor on Saturday, and boy, was I pleased with him. We really got along, and we made a plan for what to do about, health issues. I've spent time in a few hospitals here. I haven't had an over amount of time in hospitals. The most serious thing was just getting that hernia operation. And that wasn't any emergency or anything. Mainly here, you don't go to a doctor, you go to a hospital. That's where I go to get checkups and just regular doctor's visits. And so, that's where I see a heart doctor. That's where I see them all. But it's all been like really modern and extremely efficient and clean. And one thing here, because of the difference what people earn here, extremely well staffed, extremely well attended, extremely good here. So one thing that might surprise some people is I was really glad to be back in Bali and out of Germany for healthcare, and I wouldn't want to be in America either. Although with Medicare, in America is really good. Anyway, America's too big and everything. I can't be there. Too big and too expensive. And the other things that are really, really troublesome about America wouldn't really impact me except disturb me, if I went back in terms of healthcare stuff. But I gave up my Medicare B long ago. You can't use it if you're not an American. You just pay it. But anyway, I'm really glad to be here. I really feel home. Now listen, what I say about Bali is it's a nice place to live, but I wouldn't want to visit here. Terrible traffic jams. A certain amount of disturbing trash. And depending on the time of year, the trash on the famous beaches in around February, March can be, you just can't go in. That doesn't happen here in Sonora. Sometimes we have, too much in the water, but usually there's not much at all. But something that is very true, and that is that people I talk to who come here as tourists, they like it. They really enjoy it, and they want to come back. Pardon me for going on about all this health stuff. I know it's not really a very good topic for a podcast, but a lot of you know me, so I did. And one thing I figured out, with the doctor is because of my hernia, this disturbance, sort of cramping and sometimes pain in my lower back. It's not going to go away till I solve that, and it's the result of eating. So I'm eating very little now. I love it. When I got home, I said I broke the fast here. Just a little bit of blended kale soup, and then the next morning, it was the afternoon actually, about noon. after I'd seen that doctor, and I got some bubur, which is like rice porridge. Bubur tawar. That meant plain bubur. I just want plain rice porridge. And I got 2 orders of it from this small place near here. Incidentally, that was $1. You can eat really cheaper. Or you can eat 10, 20 times that much for a meal, right? Anyway, I love it. So that's what I ate. And then putting some of the blended kale soup, that's what I ate until the next day. I'm eating, very little, oatmeal. Oh, it's so great. I love it. I love the fasting in that. And I just watched a really good video on the benefits of a 24-hour fast. And I used to do that. I remember when I was studying Japanese intensively in Monterey back in '69, taking a little break from Tassajara. I fasted 1 day a week then, and I was eating only raw food, very pure. Oh, boy, was I pure. But anyway, it's really great. I need to lose some weight. That's really helping, and I want to keep it up. I don't mind it. I like it. It's good. Okay, now I want to give a shout out to all of you who went out on No King's Day. I'm very grateful to you. Thanks a lot. I know you have a pretty serious situation going on in America. It's just amazing, isn't it? It's just incomprehensible. Anyway, I got a lot of reports, personal reports about it. I saw a lot online, and that's wonderful. People are doing that. And also, the way Portland has learned not to freak out and go out and smash things, but to dress up in all those fantastic, ridiculous costumes and dance around. That is great. That is great. So thank you very, very much. And good luck to us all with what's happening in America, which is following traditional lines of authoritarian takeover. And it's being done by Project 2025. Trump is paying attention to getting revenge on his enemies and his ballroom. And he did a good thing in Gaza. That was good. I think he's doing a bad thing in Venezuela. But I know he doesn't want war, so that's a good thing about it. But you never know with him. He's totally unpredictable. I know how disturbing it is to people what's happening in America. To some of you, that Trump's agenda is not moving fast enough. Hey, incidentally, in our home, anybody is welcome. And we do know people that are supporters of the Trump regime in America. Not many, but we know some. I have a good friend. One of them, he defected, though. He can't take it anymore, and now he's writing against it. After years of having to listen to him. Oh, God. Thank God. Anyway, but I reject no one. We reject no one. This will all get worked out somehow. And how it'll get worked out for sure? Climate change and AI. Those are big, giant waves that are coming to roll over us completely. Now, I use ChatGPT and Claude AI a lot, and I love them. It is incredible what they can do. I may not use ChatGPT, but I use it as a research assistant, as a secretary, as it helps me with. Oh, it's very good in researching health stuff. Medicine. I can just take a picture of something; it'll tell me what it is, and it's very, very reliable. I know it makes mistakes, but you keep your head on. You don't blindly follow everything. Sometimes I catch you with something. I say, no, wait. That's not right. And it'll go, oh, yeah, you're right. So it's like dealing with an extremely brilliant, knowledgeable person, well beyond any person. And it's just so helpful. It'll save me so much time. I could make an hours-long podcast just detailing specific ways. It helps me and saves time. I'll give you an example. Atmar at Johannesburg, he was there leading one of these work groups. He did all the gardens and stonework and everything around there for years and years and years. He was like the main teacher there under Richard Baker, when Richard or Paul Rosenblum weren't there. And I liked him a lot. He was at Hartford Street in San Francisco, which is, the gays Indo, founded by Tommy Dorsey. It's open to anybody, but, it's mainly catered to gays and, had the hospice and all that. Anyway, Akbar was there. I don't know for how long. So he knows a lot of the people from back then. And we talked about Jerome Peterson. And, he had some good stories about Jerome. I loved it. We talked about what a character Jerome was. Anyway, actually, in Tassar Stories 2, the second book, and the third book, there's more about Jerome, so just wait for that. But anyway, at some point, there were three of us going, when did Jerome die? Now, did I see him before this or that? And I knew it would be sort of hard, so I just said to ChatGPT, Jerome Peterson, San Francisco Zen Center, when did he die? And it said, December 10th, 2010, I think. That's just what I'm remembering now. But just endless ways. My son, Kelly, who is an expert tree trimmer, he has a business for it. He's using it now to, advise him and work with on tree trimming. You can take a picture with it and it'll talk about it. And I don't use the vocal. I don't use the vocal thing. I use voice recognition. See, and listen, if you have ChatGPT, in your iPhone, you don't need to use iPhone voice recognition to dictate to it. It has its own voice recognition, and it is really good, like way, way, way better than the iPhones. So I dictate stuff to it and get answers. Now, I use the voice almost entirely for one thing, and that's Indonesian. It's really good at that. And, if somebody says something I don't understand, which happens a lot, I have to speak to it, and then it tells me what it says. And then I will even say to it in Indonesian something and please explain it to them, because I can't explain it while I don't have the vocabulary. And it'll explain, it'll blow their mind, I'll tell you. Like, who's in there? Anyway, but it's the beginning days of AI. And we're going to wish they were here again, I fear. But we'll see. I fear the human race more than I fear AI. To me, the number one thing, the thing I'm really hoping for is the survival of the biosphere with human beings as healthy as it can be. And there's a lot of threats to it now. So that, to me, is above all political considerations. I want to see the species survive. And to me, the most survival-oriented countries are like Japan and China. And China internally is doing a really good job. And I don't like what they're doing outside so much, but they're just securing the edge for possible nuts from other parts of the world to come try and get them. So the people who live like right near them around are not real fond of them. But they're just absolutely the leaders in so much. And America's literally doing a demolition job on itself right now. It's destroying what has made America great in so much, especially the science and the research. And going after Harvard, that's the top research place in the world, and it's the only one that isn't in China, and like the next 9 are in China. And trying to screw over Harvard, boy, is that a mistake. And one thing, I was listening to Hinton, the father of AI, right? Well, one of the godfathers of AI. And he said, he was talking about that. And Neil deGrasse Tyson talks about this, that you can't in scientific research, pick an individual thing and say, let's put all our money in that. It was broad-based support for scientific research that brought us so many things. And Hinton said that sort of funding for scientific research for the cost of one BM bomber created AI. So think about where we put, all over the world, where we put our resources. I think we've got just as much chance that AI is going to help us solve climate change and get the world into sensible, sane management of countries. It's run by hysterical people that just respond to billionaires right now. I mean, it's horrible. I know that I greatly oversimplified some stuff, generalized, and they're certainly destroying more than basic scientific research programs that benefit the handicapped and disabled. And, he goes on. And the cruelty to illegal immigrants, the group with the lowest crime rate in the country. And no Democrat came out and said that and defended them. Said, yeah, there's too many. We got to get a better hold of that. But they're the most peaceful people in the country. And who's attacking them? I bet it's the most violent group in the country. In a related comment, Bill Gates said, it's not a pretty thing to see the richest man in the world kill the poorest children in the world. I think I should go now before I talk more, huh? So, thanks a lot. And glad we're all still here. And this has been a Kook Audio Podcast. I'm DC, Poobah of Kook Audio and Kook Archives. Coming to you from sleepy Sanur, and I'm doing this with earpods again, because I've been lazy since I got back, but it's not terrible. Coming to you from sleepy Sanur with Dogget Bandita. Boy, was she glad to see us come back. Feline Manis, and dear, lovely Katrinka. And we're wishing you and yours and all of us a grand awakening.